All right, hello and welcome. A lot of the documents that we're going to be looking at have some challenging words and are also tackling a lot of topics all at the same time. So the way that we suggest that you read these is actually read them at least 3 times, and each time we're going to have a different purpose for reading through the document. Of course, one thing to do as soon as you can, as soon as you get these, is look for an introduction or note. That's how we put it into context. But really, this is focusing on interpretation when we get to the interpreting of a document step. And the way we're going to do for these is actually with some color coding. So I have 3 different colored pencils here, and you should also get, to do this activity, you're going to need the same thing. A reddish colored one, reddish or orangish. You want a yellow that's very different from that one, and a bluish kind of color, like the one I have here. Colored pencils will be better. If you make a mistake, you can erase or somewhat erase colored pencil rather than marker or highlighters. So I'm going to start with the red as I read through, and I'm going to demonstrate for you. This will be the color for anything that has to do with Indians, Native Americans. If we see a name for them, if the writer or the author is describing them, or any actions of Indians. So that's how I'll read through this document first. So again, I can ignore this part. And as I read through this, I see this isn't really about Indians or describing them, except this part right here, actually. 2 important tribes have accepted the provision made for their removal. That's something that this author, President Jackson, is saying that they've done. And that's it. I'm going to move to the next part. So as I read through, I see the word Indians, but it's not really describing them, and that's not really a name, a different name for them. It's just, again, the word Indians. As I come along here, though, I notice this part that I highlight. A few savage hunters is how President Jackson is describing Indians here. And as I scan farther down, again, I see the word Indians, but it will separate. That's not talking about, it's not describing or giving an action of them. This is really about something else that I can ignore for now. I do see this part. This is about describing Indians, that they have some rude institutions. That's kind of, here's that word savage again. So I see that twice. So I see that this, already I can see this President Jackson is describing them as savage twice. Savage and rude seems to be his attitude toward Indians. And look, here's that word again. He's talking about a few thousand savages. But this is about something else. So see how quickly I can go through this. Here I am on the 3rd page already. This is about government, so that's not what I'm looking for here. But I do see something about tribes been annihilated. Really, it's about this whole sentence here. This is a description of some Indians. So look along. Here's this word, this term, which you may see in other ones too, the red men, which matches the pencil, the color that we're using. If I scan a little further, again, I'm looking for things about it's describing it will be difficult to leave the graves of their fathers. This is about the Indians. So here's an action. That's something that I was looking for. But actually, when I read through the rest of this, this isn't really about actions that they've done. It's really about something else. Wherever I see Indian, it's about a different topic. So I can let those go. And what do I have? Oh, there's that word savage again. Wandering savage. And when I look through, once again, I already got that graves of the fathers, so I don't need to do that again, but I could if I wanted to, but I'd rather pick this new piece. This is describing them as unwilling to submit to the laws of states and mingle with their population. All right, so I'm done with the red, and that took me about 3 minutes, 4 minutes to do. It may take you longer to do this because you're reading it for the first time. But now we need to go back to the first page again, because we're going to have a different purpose for reading it. Now we're going to want the yellow pencil. And hopefully you can read this. I used yellow pencil to write it. This is white Americans. Again, names or descriptions or actions for white Americans in general. So that's what I'm going to be looking for now. And I'm pretty sure I'm going to find a few of these. I don't see any on the first part here. Congress isn't automatically white Americans, although at that time it was. I do see this about white settlements, but again, that's just reusing the word white, so I'm going to leave that part out. I'm really just trying to find new kinds of descriptions, and here I find one. A dense and civilized population. That's certainly talking about white Americans, because see, it's contrasting them with the savage hunters, which I already marked as being the way that this man's referring to the Indians. This is about something else. This isn't really describing white Americans. It's about their rude institutions, lessening their numbers. These good counsels, this good kind of advice, that certainly seems to be another way of saying whites. White Americans know the right way to do things. And again, it's giving the opposite of what the Indians are apparently doing, according to this person. What good man would prefer a country? Really means good white man. And look, all this right here, a republic, the farms, the improvements, these 12 million happy people, that here he's talking about white people. So we will highlight it or color it yellow like that. All right, we got quite a lot on that one. Let's see what there is on the third page. Again, government is not automatically white, so we're going to do something else with that part. Here we have the waves of population and civilization are rolling to the westward. That's white people, right? We now propose, that's really that's about government, so that's not what I'm looking for. This is about the Indians, they're leaving the graves of their fathers. What do they know more than our ancestors and our children are doing to better their condition? So again, this is all, he's talking about white people. To better their condition, he's talking about whites who left for an unknown land. Our children, again, he's talking about white people. Leave the land of their birth. So he seems to be saying, well, they're going to have to leave the graves of their fathers, but so have white people. This seems to be about something else, but then again, our young population may range, develop the power of man. So again, this is certainly about white people. All the rest of this seems to be about something else, so I can leave that part alone. I go to this last part here, the settled, civilized Christian. Again, he's contrasting the wandering savage to these Christians. Indians are the savage, according to the President Jackson, and this is what white people are. Okay, and the last thing that we're going to be marking with the blue is going to be our color for anything about the Indian removal policy, what the government was actually doing, either things in the past, any reference about the future, descriptions, or if we find out reasons for it. So anything that has to specifically do with removal. So let's go back to that first page again. So we're all starting in the same place. Again, blue is going to be for anything about Indian removal. And the first sentence in this message that President Jackson's making to Congress gives me pleasure to announce the benevolent, the nice policy of the government. This is exactly what he's talking about. See, it was even up there in the title, Indian removal. It's been pursued for nearly 30 years. That's another description. And he says it's about removing Indians beyond white settlements is approaching a happy consummation, a happy conclusion. So he's saying, in 2 words right here, this is a good thing, it's been going on for a while, and he expects it's coming to its end. So we go to the second page. What else do we have to mark here? He's talking about the future. He's calling it a speedy removal and an important to the United States. I don't think I need to... Oh, well, there's this bit here. It puts an end to possible dangers of collisions between governments. So that's something worth marking right there. Here are those bits we had before. Again, this is more about that policy. This is all that he's been saying right in the middle here. It will separate Indians from immediate contact with whites. It will free them from the power of states. It will let them, there's that word again about happiness. That was that mention that we saw before about where he was describing what kind of institutions Indians have. So I'll leave that bit alone. Oh, there's more. It will slow down their decay, which is lessening their numbers, and perhaps cause them to become interesting, civilized, and Christian. All right, that's what Jackson's got to say about that. Remember, this was something else. This is not about removal, so let's go to page 3. Present policy of the government. This is continuing the same progress that we've been doing before, he says. I can skip these parts. See, now that we're on the third part, we can skip over some of the parts that we'd colored a different shade. But here I see he's calling this a fair exchange. That's a description he's given for this removal. I don't see anything else here that really... except this part here. Remove them at their own expense. It will support them in their new homes. Okay. It's going to give him new territory. They're going to pay the expense of the removal. Support him for a year. So that seems to be about that. And come to the very last page here. There's that word again, policy, which I've seen before. The policy toward the red men is not only liberal, it's generous, he says. Generous. Oops, I realized I'd missed a bit before. And here's his conclusion. Again, it's about removal. To save him, the Indians, from that alternative or annihilation, we kindly offer a new home. And again, like he said before, we're going to pay the whole trip. Isn't that nice? So we have our multicolored document now. You can see most of it had to do with Indians or whites or the Indian removal policy, which fits the title up there. So this is a strategy that we can use on other documents as well, so we can understand what these people are saying about Native Americans, about white people, and about Indian removal.